amazing. But we do absolutely everything on site here. So I can show you. We've obviously got the brewing equipment, which is here, and during a brew day, that's moved to one side. During the rest of the time, we've got all our bottling equipment, our packaging equipment is under the table here. In the far corner, you've got the hot liquor tank. So that's a 1,000-litre copper tank, which allows us to heat water pre-brew days. And then in the corner over here, we've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 fermentation vessels. And then the one nearest you is a conditioning tank, which allows us to just give the beer a little extra time and to carbonate the beer. And then obviously we've got our supplies of kegs. These are the stock of kegs that we have to go out to pubs and bars around the Carse of Gowrie. And then in the corners we've got all our marketing and malt, etc. So yeah, it's all within one spot. We do everything from brewing to packaging, storage, maturation. It's all here on site. And also obviously having parties. So, yeah, it's a good spot. So you might have seen the glitter ball up on the roof there, which it's been a long time since that's been spinning, but yeah, it's good when it's on. Yeah, so today we're brewing the Ballo Blonde, which is a golden ale that we've been doing since we started brewing in 2016. It's one of our core beers. And yeah, we're actually doing a double brew. It's 1,000 litres of beer today. Okay. It's that popular. We sell a lot of it on draft. It's our #1 product on draft. So when we brew it, we have to brew quite a lot of it by our standards. So yeah, it's a beautiful golden beer made with Maris Otter malt and East Kent Goldings and Centennial hops. It's a very clean profile malt-driven beer, but yeah, it's been really popular, and we kind of developed it as a beer to be drunk kind of for the summer months. But it's just been so popular all year round that lots of restaurants and bars in the area actually stock it as a draft product. So
any considerations whenever you're making this beer? Anything to look out for?
What, in terms of manufacturing?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, it's quite a simple recipe. Like most things, it's about the quality of the ingredients. So we use the very best Simpson's malt, and we use, as I say, good quality fresh hops from Kent to make it. That's the secret. If you just use the best ingredients and don't cut corners, you get a really good tasting beer. This is the heart of our brewing process. This is a Braumeister 500-litre piece of kit. This suits us completely because it's a single vessel system, so it has a very small footprint in the brewery, and the benefit is it's gone casters and it can be wheeled away. So that leaves us room for doing all the other parts of the brewing process, like packaging beer. A lot of other breweries you might visit, they have 3 or even 4 vessel systems that take different parts of that brewing process, and you'll see in the big hoppers, and there's lots of static pipe that feeds them, and they've got often computer controlled as well. This is quite a manual system, but it's very, very compact, so it suits us. So what we have in here now, we're basically ready to go to start the mashing process, the very beginning of the beer. This is 475 litres of clean water that comes from our own private water supply on the hill here on the farm. It passes through filtration and UV filters before it comes into the tank. And we've actually preheated this using like a giant kettle that we have to a temperature that gets it close to what we need for the malting process. Beauty of this water here is it's got a fantastic mineral content. It doesn't have too much carbonate in it. It's not a hard water, so it lends itself really well to a lot of beer styles. In fact, some of the beers that we want to make sometimes will add a little bit of carbonate, a bit of calcium to it to improve the mash. We don't do that for our ales, but we will often do it for our lagers, just to help the yeast along and to help the beer clarify. But yeah, so now we're just about to start putting the malt in. So this is just the bottom plate, so we're basically going to form a sort of sandwich, filter sandwich with the malt in between. Go off centre. Right. That's it. So in a bigger brewery, this would be one vessel called the mash tun, and it would be one part of the process, and it would have the same thing, a wedge sieve bottom like that you place, and then you put the malt in. But the beauty of this is we lift it out afterwards, and then the next process happens in the same vessel. Right. So this is Maris Otter malt going in now. So this is malted barley. So that's barley that's been allowed to germinate and then roasted off. So during the germination process, it starts the enzymes working on the starch, to produce sugars, and then it's kind of roasted to stop that process. And all we're doing is rehydrating it and starting that enzymatic process over again. So that's an important part of this malt. So it gets a good stir, and the water then activates the amylase enzymes, the maltase enzymes, and starts that process of converting what's quite dry, powdery starch into the sweet sugars that the yeast can consume to make the alcohol and carbon dioxide. It goes in, so the step mashing that we use is just the point about this kit. One thing I forgot to mention is it's thermostatically controlled. It has its own heating elements underneath, which means that once we start this process here, we can increase it in steps and hold it. So the importance of that means that we can emphasize one particular enzyme in the process over another, and we can create a beer with different profiles in terms of fermentability, either a very dry finish, or high alcohol return, or something with a lot more body to it, a lot more mouthfeel. Yeah. And that's why we use step mashing. This is particularly important for things like Weiss beers and German lagers and festivals. So that's the base malt. That Braumeister is what we call the base malt. So that forms the sort of backbone of the beer, the colour, and the flavours. And then what we're going to add now are the sort of specialty malts. These are malts that have been roasted to be slightly darker, or given a golden colour, or roasted in a way to give more head or more head retention to the beer. So we add these specialty malts. These are more expensive, but they usually go in smaller proportions. Usually no more than about 10% of the grain bill. So you'll see the difference in the colour there going in. So that's a malt called Cara Gold, and that's going to give the beer that lovely golden hue when it's finished. So you can see it's just been kilned a little bit warmer. So whereas the base malt might be kilned to about 80 degrees, this might be 130, 140 degrees kilned, and it just caramelises it, and you get this lovely colour and that lovely aroma from it. So yeah, it's leaving as much grain behind as possible, so it's stuck in that tube. Well, I mean, I've been, obviously, Donnie and I have been drinking beer since we were wee boys kind of thing, but basically we met when I moved into the area. We met, Donnie was working on some fencing work in the field next to where I live, and we basically just got chatting. It was a hot summer's day, and we were just chatting and lamenting the fact that there were no pubs in Abernyte and that you had to drive into Dundee or Perth to get a beer. And then I said, well, I've done a bit of homebrew at university, do you fancy just getting involved, and we'll just do some beers for ourselves? And it kind of started from there. I bought a small 20-litre Braumeister kit, and we just started brewing from there and did that for a few years. And then I had some money from a previous business that I'd sold, and I thought, well, this could be quite a good hobby, if you like. Yep. And so we started from there, and then at some point we decided, well, if we're going to expand, if we're going to get a bigger one, we'll need a bigger shed. So we set up the plans to build this, and it was built from scratch, and it was fantastic. We had all like the local villagers coming up, helping wheelbarrowing in the concrete and laying the footings and the foundations, and the Knapp farm buildings that built this, they were like just down the road. So it's a real local effort. Mm-hmm. And that was completed in 2016. So the first commercial brew was a listing post Pilsner, that April-May time, and from there we've just gone from strength to strength, really. Yeah. But we've always kind of focused on keeping things sustainable, not getting into a lot of debt, not taking on any real big finance, so that we can finance things organically as things grow. So we're never left with the stress of owing money or having a lot of, being in the red and feeling that pressure to do stuff. So what's happening now is we've switched on the pump, and it's going to start drawing this liquid from the outside of the malt tube through an inlet, through the pump, and then it's going to be pushing it out through this top section. So if you watch, so this level will start to rise, this level will start to fall. Hops. This is our hop store. We keep them at 6 degrees to try and ensure the freshness. The good flavours and bitterness, you really want to keep your hops nice and cold. So this gives you an idea of the variety of hops that we use in the various beers, loosely sorted into whether they go into ales or lagers. They're from all around the world. We've got New Zealand hops, we've got hops from America, hops from Germany, English Kent hops. So for this recipe we're going to be using East Kent Goldings. So these come in these kind of vacuum-packed, light-proof sacks. They're kept cold, and we buy them from a hop factor down south. And so this is what's going to impart the bitterness and act as a preservative for the beer. But in order to make the hops work, they need to be boiled in the beer. Like wine, hops vary from year to year. Harvests change. The amount of bitterness in hops change from year to year. And the bitterness of hops is measured in the alpha acids. So it's the alpha acids are what are extracted during the boil. So we know that there's 5.4% alpha acids in these particular hops. And that gives us a number that we can work on, so we can calculate how much hops to put in to us to get a certain bitterness. It looks a little bit artificial, and it's hard to show, but the smell of that is quite rich.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get that to 370. That's it. The thing about brewing is it's all the different skills that you need to learn, to get from microbiology to business to engineering to electrical engineering, even just basic plumbing. So there's so much involved: sales and marketing, delivery schedules. It's the beauty of brewing and the microbrewery is you just have so many different facets to your day and to your week that actually it's really quite stimulating. There's always something new.
Yep.
We've had to repair a generator, never done that before, and it was an interesting process to understand how to repair electrical equipment or pumps, etc. So yeah, there's quite a lot to it.
Change from year to year, or do you keep the same?
Yeah, so we typically introduce a new beer maybe once a year. We don't go crazy. A lot of breweries out there produce a new beer every couple of weeks, but we struggle with that. I think we'd like to try and keep our beers consistent. So we have a range of beers, probably about just almost 20 different beers, but we only have a limited number of tanks. So we have a range of core beers, Ballo Blonde being one of them. And then what we do is we just make them fit into the brew schedule. And when we got a space for something weird and wonderful, we'll put out the Brazen, or we'll put out the Doppelbock or something like that. But really it's quite nice. What we try and aim for is making sure the stock turns over really quickly. So we don't overdo it. We make sure the beer's pushed out to the shops and it's sold out, and then we bring in something fresh and new. And that way they're not left with beer on shelves, or we're left with lots of beer stuck in here that's approaching the sell-by date. 6 or 7 types in stock at any one time.
Cool.
And what typically happens is our retailers, the farm shops, will just ring us up and say, right, often it's just, can we have 2 cases of whatever you've got in at the moment? Which is brilliant. They trust us. They know that it'll sell. They just want to have a fresh range, and then it means that their shelves look different from one delivery to the next. So it works for everybody. Yeah. Of course, it's always having, when you go out and you have a good chat and people say, well, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I've got a microbrewery or a nanobrewery. People want to know about that, whereas you may say, I work in insurance, and it kind of ends the conversation often, doesn't it? So no offense to insurers, but it's just one of those things. It's just a good lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
But I would say the downside is it's not really a get rich quick scheme. There's not a lot of margins in it, and you've got to be prepared to do it for a quality of life rather than really putting that thinking you're going to be the next brew dog, or so